as I said, the reason I decided to do something like this is it's been a while since I've connected with Lemurian family online. Been very busy with some other projects, and if you've read my email recently, taking a break for a while from some of the usual things. Aloha, Darren and Inga from Netherlands. Yvonne in Texas. Christine is in Costa Rica. All right, congratulations. I'm sure there's a wonderful story behind that. Isabel, welcome from the Czech Republic. Nice to have you here. I know it's late at night. Appreciate the folks of you in Europe tuning in. But even in this small, intimate group, it's nice to reconnect with Lemuria family and tap into that common energy that we all share. We're all over the world, all have very different lives or in different time zones, but it's nice to connect because we have this common thread. We have this commonality, this connection with Lemuria. So wherever you are around the world, and if you're here live or watching the replay of this, just know that we are connected. This is a spiritual family in the largest sense of the word. And it's just nice to reconnect and do things together. Now I can pretty much guess, well, I have a few guesses about why you decided to join this discussion, how to think like a Lemurian. Well, maybe you're Lemurian curious. Some of you maybe have just been introduced recently to Lemuria, or you had a recent reading from someone who said you had lifetimes in Lemuria, and you're here because you'd like to know a little bit more about what it actually means to think like a Lemurian. Aloha, Julie from the UK. Nice to have you here. Then there's some of you, like Julie, who just joined us, who already know you have Lemurian wisdom inside of you. And maybe you're here looking for just a little loving nudge to use that wisdom more deeply, more frequently, just be more aware of it. And I think for many of us, the reason we're gathered here today is that there are some things that you really want to be or do or have in this lifetime that haven't quite happened yet, or they haven't happened as quickly as you wanted them to, or as fully as you'd like them to. So I think we're here for a variety of these reasons. And whatever the reason is, you're in the right place. We're all supposed to be here at this time doing this thing. And before we actually get into a little bit more of what I wanted to talk about today, let's just take a quick minute, indulge me to do a little breathing exercise so we can just set the energy for today's session. Okay? I know many of you are familiar with this. It's really easy. Just bring your attention to the area of your heart. And imagine that you're breathing in and out of your heart a little slower and deeper than usual. You're simply allowing things to slow down as you focus your attention on breathing in and out of the area of your heart. Notice how nice it feels to inhale slowly and fill your lungs with air. And each time you exhale, you're feeling more relaxed. You're feeling more peaceful, more calm. Notice how you're feeling more present in this moment. Please take one or two more breaths, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you, everyone, for that. I always love doing that. It's such a simple way of not only shifting individual energy, but the energy of the group. Hopefully you've noticed the difference. I've been on a spiritual path for more than 30 years. And at the very beginning, it was really slow. I was just I borrowed a couple of books from a friend. I was just kind of on the outskirts of spirituality, just kind of getting my feet wet. And then when I moved to London, I lived in London for several years. At the time, it was a hotbed of esoteric activity. Bookstores were awesome. I loved going into the bookstores and looking through all the spiritual and esoteric books. And I even dabbled with some spiritual events and esoteric groups there. But my growth, my awakening was really, really slow. Over the years, there have been 3 key turning points, I'd say, that really helped me accelerate my spiritual growth, my evolution, my awakening, at least in this lifetime. The first was discovering energy healing. That was huge because almost immediately I'm introduced to this world of non-physical energy and non-physical beings like spirit guides and angels, and I could sense them. I was getting messages from them when I was practicing healing. So that was a huge turning point, a huge acceleration. The second was reconnecting with Lemurian. I know many of you can relate to that you heard the word, you read about it, someone talked about it, and you just felt this connection. And sometimes it was just like, what is that? I need to know more. For me, the first time I heard that word, I had a visceral reaction to it. I had no idea what it was, but I felt something shift inside of me. And from that moment forward, it's just everything unfolded. I've had so many. Well, one of the biggest things is realizing that, wait a minute, I have experience in this place, Lemuria. I've had lifetimes there. I've actually been a guide in Lemuria. And so reconnecting and realizing, hey, I've got some wisdom. I've got some experience. I know things. And I've got friends here on the earth plane who've had similar experiences. And so that has really been a catalyst, an accelerant for me in my spiritual awakening. I know many, and give me a yes in the comments if you've had a similar experience where just reconnecting with Lemuria, you have felt your spiritual growth accelerate. But for me, it's unfolded a whole life in a way. I worked in a spiritual church that was focused on healing, but also had this big connection to Lemuria. And that's where I first learned about Lemuria. I met my wife through Lemurian connection. She and I created Lemurian healing as a modality, bringing Lemurian healing back into the world in this lifetime. And so for me, this reconnection with Lemuria has been huge. And Lemurian wisdom has been a part of my daily life for decades. Darren says, yes, the Lemurian connection has definitely been a turning point, accelerating. Christine gives us a thumbs up. Yep. And I know that I have experienced that firsthand with you online, Christine. Yeah, I saw it in real time. And I know Martin and Inge, I know you have connections, and I know it's been important to you as well. So with that kind of as a backdrop, here's what inspired me to get together and do this live stream today, is that in recent months, I've been catching myself more often thinking and acting very, very human. Now, I don't mean human in a derogatory way. We're all human. There's nothing wrong with that. But I've just been catching myself. It's like I'm in a situation and I'm feeling stressed, or I'm feeling like something's not working, and I feel like I'm kind of bumping up against a wall, or I'm finding myself getting frustrated about a situation. And I'll catch myself and say, wait a minute, why are you thinking and acting so human about this? Come on. You know things. You have this Lemurian wisdom, this Lemurian perspective. It doesn't just apply to a few things, it can apply to everything in your life. And so I've been doing a better job of catching myself, but I just started noticing the last couple of months, and Inge says she has that also. It's like you catch yourself going, why am I thinking about this in such a limited human way? Why don't I have this broad Lemurian perspective on everything? And the simple reason is I think we get caught up in our day-to-day life, and this is a very dense, slow-moving reality that we live in. Yes, time is speeding up all the time, but compared to living in Lemuria, this place is very slow and dense. Things change at a snail's pace, it seems, compared to what deep down inside we know is possible. So sometimes we lose track of what we really know, is because we get caught up in old habits. We get caught up in what's going on in the world around us. We get caught up in the emotions of others, or in our just day-to-day living, and sometimes it's easy to forget what we really, really know. So I just wanted to have a conversation about this because I know I'm not the only one. And I've noticed too that when I catch myself and I remember how to think about myself or the world around me, or what's going on in the world or next door, whatever's happening, when I start to think of it more in a Lemurian way, my life goes better. If it happens early in the day, something happens early in the day, and I kind of reconnect or realign myself, my day goes better. And as I catch myself thinking very human and trying to think more like a Lemurian about things, not only do my days go better, but more synchronicities, beneficial synchronicities start to show up. Good things happen that I weren't expecting, unexpected gifts and nice things happening, or people, doing nice things seemingly out of the blue. So I've just noticed this correlation. I've been really, really aware of it recently. So I wanted to have this conversation about thinking more like a Lemurian and less like a 3D human. Again, not being derogatory whatsoever about that. So that's why we're here, and I want this to be as much of a conversation as possible, given that this is a live stream. But comments, questions, anything that comes to mind, feel free to put in the comments as we go through here, because I just have a couple of things I'd like to share. I was thinking about actually this morning. I was thinking about the environment I was raised in. I had very loving, positive parents, but I acquired a bunch of beliefs just being around my family and the other adults around me. One of the things that seemed to be very valued was the whole concept of problem solving, that solving problems was a valuable commodity, that being able to solve problems was a good thing. And I learned this in school as well. So part of my young psyche was focused on, okay, solving problems is a good thing. It's valued. People appreciate it when you can figure something out and solve things. So I started looking at the world as a bunch of problems that needed to be solved. And when you take that to the extreme, you look at everything as a problem, and that's not necessarily healthy. I also was raised in this environment where you really cared what others thought about you. Now, this wasn't overtly taught to me, but observing it in my own family, my parents, my grandparents, it just seemed like, okay, you have to be very aware of what people are thinking of you. But again, that was just became ingrained in me. And also somehow I developed this just general feeling of not feeling worthy or deserving. And here's just an example from my third grade. So I was 8 or 9 years old. Kids in the neighborhood would have birthday parties, and we'd all go to each other's birthday parties. And the traditional thing was to bring some kind of gift to a birthday party. But when I was having my birthday party, I didn't want to deal with the gift thing at all. I just felt so embarrassed and deep down kind of undeserving, unworthy. So I sent out invitations to my birthday party, and I said, no gifts, no gifts, no gifts. So even that young, I had this feeling like, okay, I'm really not worthy and deserving. So the reason I'm sharing this is that it all kind of, all these things wove together. And the result was just a habit of chronic overthinking and not living according to my heart. Can any of you relate to any of that, right? Those kind of beliefs you're raised with, but the result is that you're just constantly analyzing and overthinking and looking at other people's opinions, or, treating whatever's outside of you as more important as, what's going on in here in the heart. And that's, and I realize that did limit me for much of my adult life. So by comparison, what does it actually mean to think like a Lemurian? Well, one of the big things we'll get to is trust. Inga says, a lot of old pain has been coming to the surface to heal in the first few months. I've also seen friends open up about old traumas from home. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Inga, because a lot of this stuff is coming up for us this year. This is a 9-year in Lemurian numerology, so there's a lot of clearing going on, a lot of things coming up that needs to be addressed so we can move into a new cycle. So yeah, it's coming up in different ways for each of us, but yeah, a lot of this stuff is coming up. And for me, thinking about things in the past and how they've affected me, and deciding what do I want to carry into the future and what do I want to, leave by the roadside because I don't need that anymore. So thinking like a Lemurian, one of the big things that was central to Lemurian thinking was this concept of trust. Now remember, Lemuria existed in a higher dimension. Let's call it the 5th dimension. It was a higher frequency, a higher octave. We had physical bodies, but they were much less dense than these human bodies. And the veils of our consciousness were much thinner than the ones we have now. And so we were much more aware of the energy and life of everything around us. I mean, of each other. We were telepathic. We felt this loving oneness with each other and all life around us, trees, rocks, the clouds, the oceans. I mean, everything we felt this connection with. So we didn't feel so separated from each other, from our own higher selves, from spirit guides, from the world around us. It was just this very harmonious reality of connection and oneness. And one of the characteristics of this Lemuria reality was that our thoughts would manifest pretty much immediately. I mean, it was a realm of near instantaneous manifestation. So we would think something, and that something would start to unfold, would start to manifest for us. We really didn't have any doubt. And given that kind of reality, it makes sense. We were getting instant manifestation, instant proof that whatever we thought about, whatever we focused on, whatever we desired, the universe would start to create for us in that reality. So it moved from a thought into an experience quickly. So it's easy to trust because you feel so connected, and there really isn't any time between the thought and the experience, the intention and the manifestation. But here we are living in this wonderfully dense third dimensional reality. And there's a huge buffer usually between what we think and what actually manifests. And it's that buffer of time, I think, that induces all of this doubt, because we don't see evidence of it right away. But that leads to so many, probably leads to most of human suffering, is because, that's a big statement, but well, let me get there. Because we don't see evidence that our thoughts are connected to the reality we experience. Most people on this planet have no clue that the thoughts they're thinking are actually radiating out into the universe and actually magnetically attracting what's going to happen this afternoon or tomorrow morning, next week, next month. All of that thought energy is actually doing something. It's not just thoughts are here, my third dimensional life is over here, and they're not connected. But this is, I think, one of the key areas and fundamental areas where we can remember to think more like a Lemurian, where we know that because we've thought of something, that something exists. I know it's kind of abstract. You can't ask a question without the answer simultaneously being available. The two exist together. You can't have one without the other. That's just the way this universe works, that if you can formulate a question, that an answer, your answer, exists. Same thing with things that we consider problems. Anything that we perceive to be a problem has a solution. The two cannot exist independently, they exist together. So if you think of something as a problem, the universe immediately manifests a solution for you. And not just any generic solution. I'm talking about a specific, personalized solution for you. Now, the manifestation happens non-physically, immediately, at least here in our third dimensional world. That manifestation happens first as a non-physical form. And we have to allow this buffer of time, or allow that manifestation to come into a physical form, something we can experience with our five senses. So there is that buffer of time, but the manifestation simultaneously exists. So this is true about anything. Dreams, desire, preferences, whatever it is, if you can conceive of it, it already exists. That's powerful stuff. And it's going right back to what we experienced, what you experienced in your lifetimes in Lemuria. That you knew that whatever you desired would be manifest. And I mean, this is one of the reasons why we're so careful with our thoughts, because our thoughts manifested so quickly. We were very, very choosy about the thoughts we chose to think. But we can take that same approach and use it in our day-to-day life here. And I think we, with practice, we can start to dissolve, release, eliminate all those doubts that come into mind whenever we think about something we want, or something that we have wanted for a while that hasn't been happening. So just take a minute just to imagine what your life would be like the rest of today or tomorrow, having that kind of awareness that, okay, I don't have to worry about anything. This thing that I want, I've already told the universe what I want. It's happening. I don't have to go search for it. I don't have to give the universe constant reminders. I can just trust that it's happening. This is going back to that big word that comes from our Lemurian experience, is learning how to trust. A lot of people say, including me, that this human journey right now that we're going through is a journey from fear to love, from fear and doubt to love. And this is part of that process. A big part of that process is trusting. Yvonne's saying, I miss the feeling of being in Lemuria so much nowadays. Yep, many of us are feeling that, because what's going on in the world around us, things seem to be falling apart, and and kind of getting further and further away from the way we used to live in Lemuria. I totally get that. But I do believe in my heart of hearts that we can get closer and closer to thinking that way. And the more we think that way, the more we start living that way, because we're all creating our individual realities, right? So the more we can live with that daily awareness of like, okay, I don't have to worry about this. The universe knows what I want. I express my desire. The universe knows my dreams. That's the thing, is the creator source and the universe don't need constant reminders of what you want. They've got it. They got it the first time. Now, you can always amend your request, amend your dream, expand it, work on, develop more detail about it. But we really need to trust. That's one of the key ways we can start thinking more like a Lemurian, is trusting. When you go to a restaurant, maybe a restaurant you've been to before, when you place an order, do you follow the server back into the kitchen to make sure that the server got the order right? Do you make sure that the folks working in the kitchen are preparing your order just as you requested? Are you making sure they're cooking it properly in the right order? Of course not. I mean, that sounds ridiculous. So, in a sense, we'll trust our local diner implicitly to get our order right, but we won't trust Creator Source to give us what we desire. I mean, Creator Source, come on. I know it sounds a little silly, but these are the kind of things I've been thinking about to help me get more and more in the habit of thinking like a Lemurian. Have you ever asked for something? And I'm sure you have, but I'm just going to ask, have you ever asked the universe for something and you absolutely trusted the universe would come through for you? Has that ever happened to you? Let's think about it. I'm sure you can think of at least one thing where you say, I wanted this, and something in you just trusted what you just trusted the universe to deliver. No questions. Have I ever told you the story of how I met my wife, Mamiko? Christina? Christine? Yes. Darren, yes. Isabel, yes. Inga, yes. Yep. You can all think of an example. Well, how I met my wife for me is a great example. For most of my adult life, I didn't believe I was going to have a long-term relationship. I truly believed I would never, ever get married. And that was just part of who I was. Just those beliefs that it would never happen for me. But then there was one day, I was on the island of Kauai here in Hawaii. And it was the end of the day. I'm on a balcony overlooking the ocean. Late afternoon, sun's reflecting off the water, really, really beautiful. And I'm sitting there in this really ideal situation. And suddenly I felt ready. I felt ready to have a partner in this life. And so I made this passionate declaration to the universe that I was ready to share my life with someone. And here's the kind of life that I wanted to co-create with somebody. And this is the kind of person that I wanted to share it with. So I just passionately told the universe what I wanted. And I let it go. I didn't keep thinking about it. Okay, every once in a while it would cross my mind, but it wasn't like every time I met a woman, I thought, is she the one? Is she the one? I just, for some reason, I had this strong innate trust that, okay, I felt ready. I told the universe is gonna deliver. And the following year, it was less than a year, but it was the following year, I was doing a weekly Wednesday Lemurian wisdom workshop at the spiritual church where I was working. And one night, I'm just picturing there's like 30, 35 people in a circle every Wednesday. And one night, Mamiko walks in to the group with a friend, sits down in the circle, and that was that. I had manifested her, and she has her own story about how she manifested me. But in that situation, I like thinking about that because it reminds me that there was a huge buffer of time, and there was no proof between the time I had declared my request and the time I actually met Mamiko. And there was, there was no evidence, but I just trusted over many months, and it did unfold the way I wanted it to, even better than I had asked for. So imagine if your life was like that every day, where you just allow the universe, creator source, your higher self to just keep delivering on your desires, on your requests, because you've let go of doubts. You stopped getting in the way by saying, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? It's like being in the diner. You've placed your order. Maybe they're a little busy this morning, but they're going to bring your order and they're going to get your order right. Don't worry. Same thing. It's like the universe knows what you want. You just have to, and this is the biggest challenge, I think, for most of us, is just getting out of our own way and stop holding beliefs or habitual thoughts that just perpetuate this doubt that when is it going to happen? It hasn't happened yet. What's going wrong? Why isn't it happening? It's like, well, because you're asking, it's not happening. Margareta says, let go, let God is trust and change my life. Everything is working out the way it's supposed to. That's a wonderful attitude, Margareta, that, it's unfolding the way it's supposed to, but also trusting that the universe, creator, is truly, truly willing to give you whatever your heart's desire is. It truly is. And that's getting back to this big concept of trust. But I just like that vision of every day being like that, not just for me, but for you too. And I know it's possible. I know it's possible. You have wisdom within you. You know stuff, right? Just like I was realizing recently, wait a minute, I know stuff. This shouldn't be hard for me. There's easier ways of being and being in this world and actually living the life that I want to live. And I know there are things that you know that you don't realize that you know, if you can follow that. There's more wisdom and ability and worthiness within you than I think you realize. And it's these kind of things that I talk about with my clients every week. I mean, the way that I'm talking here today, these kind of topics, this is what I talk to with my clients all the time. As I mentioned at the beginning, there were three things that really accelerated my spiritual awakening and growth. And one of them was working with a mentor. Now, I was blessed to have a couple of mentors, but one in particular that really helped me accelerate my awakening and putting pieces together and realizing that I was a lot wiser and more capable than I thought I was, a lot more connected, I had many more resources available than I realized I had. And so having that mentor meant everything to me, because it didn't matter how many more books I read or workshops I attended. Having that mentor made a huge, huge difference. And that was probably the most important turning point for me in my spiritual growth, was having somebody who would help me focus on what was important to me and help me focus on my own skills, my own abilities, my own wisdom, so to speak, not what everybody else needs to know or what everybody else, considers to be true, but helping me understand what's true for me and focusing in on how do I create the life that I want, that I came here to create. And I'm blessed now at this point in my life, at this age, that I get to be a mentor for other people. And this is how I primarily work with clients. in my Lemurian mentoring program. And I just wanted to share a little bit about how I do this work, because I've had several clients who just wrapped up here in July working with me, and I have a few openings for new clients coming up in August. So I wanted to share about this program because I really love working with people who are serious and committed to their spiritual growth and awakening, and they want to do it quickly. And so what I often say is, my goal is to help you achieve a meaningful shift in your life in a matter of months and not years. And because I know what it's like to experience that acceleration myself. And so this is the gift that I offer to other people as I work with them one-on-one. The program is primarily based on sessions on Zoom, conversations on Zoom. That's where the key mentoring happens. However, I know that between sessions, questions come up, aha moments happen. People get messages from their guides or something happens, and they want to be able to respond or get some kind of guidance right away. So I offer essentially unlimited email correspondence in between these live mentoring sessions. And for some clients, they find that as valuable, if not more, than the actual conversations, because they're able to work through things, think about things differently, or make some decisions based on guidance that they receive between the sessions. And I have kind of a confession to make. I never learned how to type really well. So what I often do with my clients is that they'll send me an email with a bunch of questions, and I'll just turn on my audio recorder and I'll record my verbal response to their questions. And usually that works out. It's certainly better for me because it's much easier, but I'm able to get more content and nuance into my response than I would through kind of just typed email. I've worked with people in all sorts of capacities because everyone has different priorities in their life. And so this isn't coaching in the traditional sense. This isn't a cookie cutter program. What I do is I work with my guides to individually create a program that fits your priorities and what you need, what you really want to work on. And Hope here on the screen here, she was a client who was really focused, really wanted to reconnect with her inner wisdom. She knew that she had gifts to share with the world, and she really wanted to work on reconnecting with that and having the courage to start taking steps in that direction. And she said, before joining David's mentoring program, I was a wreck. I struggled with self-trust and constant bouts of limiting thoughts that I allowed to spiral out of control. I wanted to liberate myself and connect back to my true soul's essence. Now, I can certainly identify with that. Maybe you can too. And she said that the mentoring program has helped her shift into more joy and feeling empowered. Each session with David was a gateway to accessing more of who I am, my truths, and what I truly desire in this life. And her words really encapsulate what my intention is for each and every client that I work with. Etsuko, who lives in Japan, her focus was developing her channeling abilities and then taking first steps to start doing channeling as a professional, charging money, scheduling clients, and so forth. And she said she enjoyed working with me because he intuitively sensed what I would need to learn, and he crafted the sessions accordingly. The high frequencies that David brought into the sessions were beautiful, loving, and caring. And as I mentioned, because of the email correspondence, she said she was able to accomplish and learn more than she expected over the period of 6 months. Now, I know this mentoring program is not for everyone. I offer a 30-minute exploratory conversation because I really want to work with people who are serious and committed to their own growth. And so the current fee for this exploratory conversation has been $97. But as I said, I have new openings for new clients, and I'm offering this special exploratory conversation offer of only $30 if you book a call with me before August 1st. And that's August 1st wherever you are in the world. Right now it's the 29th of July here in Hawaii. But if you're interested in learning more about it, you can go to davidbauer.com/mentoring. Again, this is just a special. I'm not going to have a conversation with you before the 1st, but as long as you book your August call with me by the 1st of August, it'll be only $30. And in these calls, even if you decide or we decide together that the program is not quite a fit for you at this time, I know you're going to walk away with some insights, some ahas that you can take with you. So this is really a conversation because I want to understand what's most important to you at this time and decide whether this is a good time for you to go into this mentoring program. And as I said, this is not a cookie cutter program, one size fits all, because each of us is unique, has a unique journey. We all have unique priorities. And my guides and I will customize each one of these programs for you so that we focus on exactly what you need, and session by session we just work through it. And I'm getting guidance all the time. Every session is a little bit different. So I invite you to explore this mentoring program. As I said, if you're interested, I'm having this special where you can do an exploratory call for only $30 if you book by August 1st. And again, that URL is davidbauer.com/mentoring. Yvonne is saying, is the mentoring program only for healers? Not at all. No. In fact, there are some healers among my clients, but people have come to me to work on all sorts of priorities. As I said, one of my clients really wanted to focus on developing her channeling skills and starting to do that professionally. I have had clients who've wanted to focus on their healing work, but some people just want to have better relationships in their life, or they are thinking about shifting a career and they just kind of feel stuck. Stuck is a very common theme with my clients, and I totally relate to that. Feeling stuck, that you really want to move on something, you really want to, that there's more to life, there's more in you, but you're not quite sure how to get clarity on it or get to that. So there are some healers, but no, this is not just for healers. I had one client during the pandemic who I worked with for 2 years. He's a business owner and running 3 elderly care homes that specialize in memory care. And as you can imagine, being in that business during the pandemic was incredibly challenging and stressful. So we would meet regularly and applying Lemurian wisdom all the time to running his business, managing the challenges of care homes in the middle of a pandemic, dealing with human resource issues in the company, company financial situation, having to deal with family members of those individuals who are in these care homes. There are so many challenges, and in his own personal life. He just a life full of challenges. And so we worked with him over 2 years to make sure that his personal life, that he was growing spiritually and staying grounded and connected, that his business was, being taken care of, that he was doing the best relating to his managers and his line employees. So whatever's going on in your life, whatever is a priority for you, that becomes the focus. of this mentoring program. And the reason I call it Lemurian mentoring is that I always am bringing Lemurian wisdom to everything that we talk about. That just becomes kind of like the backbone of the mentoring, is that I'm always applying and sharing Lemurian wisdom to help you get where you want to go. Again, my intention is to help you experience a significant shift, a meaningful shift, in a matter of months rather than it taking years. But thank you for asking that, Yvonne. I really appreciate that. Everyone, thank you so much. And if you have questions, you can email me, david@lemurianhealing.com, david@lemurianhealing.com. I'd be happy to answer your questions. And again, if you're interested in mentoring, go to davidbauer.com/mentoring. And I hope to see you in a Zoom call sometime in the next couple of weeks. Everyone, thank you so much for being here and giving me this opportunity to connect with you and share some thoughts about Lemurian wisdom. And until I see you again, I send you my love and light from Lemuria. Aloha. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you soon.